Morning, everybody. Thank you for answering your attendance question for yesterday. And I hope that you all had the opportunity to read the unnatural death selection that I posted yesterday. I'm going to use that today to help you go through the rhetorical analysis process, and then you're going to practice that on your own with a different text. So both of the texts that we're going to talk about today are released passages for the rhetorical analysis essay on the AP exam. So for unnatural death, if you look at these notes, this is an outline that was put together based off of all of the different concepts we've been talking about. So you have the rhetorical situation via PAPE, then you have the specific and intentional choices embedded underneath additional claims. So if I were to sit down and write this is the process, right? As I read through, this was my notes based on text evidence. This is stuff that I outlined. So if you can kind of see this, I printed it out for myself. I annotated it. And then these are just kind of the culmination of my thinking and ultimately all the different criteria that we've talked about. So for persona, we talked about, his name is Lewis Thomas. He is a research pathologist. Obviously, he has that area of expertise. He's curious, right? Recently, I've done some thinking. He says, I wonder several times. He's compassionate. He's reassuring. He's also very much validating. He makes concessions and doesn't rebuke them in a way that is, denying the plausibility of something. He just says, now, I don't know these things, but this is what I do know. And then he follows that up with additional expert testimonials, if you will, right, from the person who had experienced death, so to speak. The audience would be those who are apprehensive or curious or fearful about death. He explains this at the beginning about where you would find books on death and that section of a bookstore. So clearly those people would also be curious as well. His purpose is to reassure those who are apprehensive, curious, or fearful about death, or his audience, that death, when it is inevitable, will come without suffering. At the beginning, in your entry information, it tells you that Lewis Thomas invites the reader to consider a new way of thinking about death. So what is that new way? It's reassurance, right? That it will come without suffering. So they do kind of tell you his purpose, but it is up to you to read through the lines and figure out what exactly is this new way that is discussed within the directions. And then the exigence, of course, the curiosity about death, right, with the example of the tree and the mouse and the soldiers. But then also the desire to assuage or diminish the fear surrounding death and suffering, right? He's curious as to why we think we should be cautious of it and why, we associate death with pain. But that is the biggest issue, right, is the unknown. And so he tries to do his best to reassure us that death and suffering are not synonymous with each other, and that natural death means that all of those things will subside, right? Our pain receptors will turn off when it's the end game. So my strategies or my rhetorical choices are given to you within the examples. So the first claim would be death is a natural process that need not be feared, right? So he talks about all the different ways that it comes, we talks about the tree, he talks about, looking at, the detailed information that you think this was sort of a skill, right? How to deal with the effects of death. And so he uses historical examples. He uses observations or personal anecdotes. Those are kind of interchangeable. And then personal observation here as well, right? Those are his inferences as he's going through bookstores and seeing what those things have in common. He also uses his scientific expertise, right? When he talks about the different types of peptide hormones and endorphins. And then again with his other personal observations. So my strategies or my choices were personal observation, anecdotes, and examples. I would even also argue through scientific explanation, right? So notice this introduction that is color-coded. Okay, these colors still match the PAPE chart, but now I also have a thesis statement. And in this particular intro, my thesis statement happens over two different sentences. I could always revise those. I'm not really 100% comfortable with it being 2 sentences, but when you see the way that it's written, it's necessary, right? So in his essay on natural death, research pathologist Lewis Thomas muses on the process of death, providing a compassionate explanation of the science of dying. Moved by the curiosity that arose from observing the deaths of living creatures, Thomas reassures those who are apprehensive, curious, or fearful about death that when it is inevitable, death will come without suffering. He develops this argument through the inclusion of examples, observations, and anecdotes from nature, history, and even his own experience. So, again, it's not bad. It's still done well, and I can write a thesis over 2 sentences. And when you see the progression of the way that they flow, it works, especially when I'm pressed for time. So I just wanted to make sure you understood that they don't always have to be 1 sentence. They can be 2, but you really do have to be specific and intentional. So that would be helpful to have up when you're starting to do yours. So today you are going to read the excerpt of Lab Girl. It's the prologue, actually. It's another released passage. So if you were to sit down and write this essay, okay, it says the following passage is biologist Hope Jaron's prologue to her 2016 memoir, Lab Girl. Right, it tells you what the prologue is, right? She uses this prologue to give basic understanding of the kind of work she does and why she considers it to be important. Okay, so analyze the rhetorical choices she makes to convey the message of the importance of her work. So they already tell you kind of a focus for reading. And then again, you are still looking for rhetorical choices. Look at even structurally, rhetorically speaking, like what do you notice, right? So when you're done reading through that, and I recommend that either you print it out and annotate on it, or you have a sheet of notebook paper available so you can take notes, even just kind of haphazardly sketching out, the PAPE acronym, something. But in here, you have a sample PAPE chart, and you are going to complete these sections, okay? So today, I just want you to focus on persona and audience. I don't want you to do anything else today. And I want you to follow this pacing guide. So today would be persona and audience, tomorrow would be purpose and exigence, and then Monday you would finish up the introduction with the thesis statement. So if you open this up, it should look familiar to you because we've done it before. And every single one of you that has had a conference with me, you know exactly where you need to improve in terms of these different boxes. And those of you that didn't have conferences with me, you have specific comments on these assignments. So everybody should know where they stand coming into this, right? You know exactly where you need to improve. So this is the same. The only thing I added was in your introduction, you do need to craft a thesis statement that specifies the rhetorical choices Jaron makes to convey the message of the importance of her work, as stated in the introductory information for the prologue. Okay, so today, to recap, you have an example of unnatural death. Okay, you have this outline to use so that you can model it when you read your excerpt from the prologue of Lab Girl and begin working on your PAPE chart. This is not due until Monday. We are taking it slow. Okay, that being said, all grades will be uploaded by this evening. I understand that things are not making sense in Gradebook and Hack. I understand that. Okay, but yesterday was the last day to submit all assignments. Therefore, I have several things that need to be updated. I appreciate your patience. Those of you that are turning things in late, do not email me asking when they will be updated. I will get to them. That is my number one pet peeve, when people take forever to turn in assignments, but yet they press me to grade them in a timely manner. We're not going to go there. Rest assured, your grades will be updated. You will get the absolute grade that you deserve and you have earned. So check tomorrow during your class periods. Those grades should be 100% accurate. Okay, so thank you for your patience and your understanding. If you have other questions regarding grade clarifications, I'm happy to discuss that with you. But again, as I said, I will get to those assignments. I will get to making sure all the discrepancies between Schoology and Hack are taken care of. Okay? All right. We'll see you guys soon. Take care.